To me, success is not about getting to a destination. It's about the person that you have to become to get to where you want to be.
Welcome to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast, a weekly podcast providing career and creative inspiration to help you build a purpose-filled life. If you're interested in tapping into your creative potential, pursuing a career with passion, and building on your biggest and best resource, yourself, please join me on this path. I'm your host, Nancy Moore, and I want you to know that I'm on this journey with you. So let's get started. Before we jump into this episode, I'd like to take a minute to let you know about my upcoming live events for women called Conversations with Passion and Purpose. The live events are meant for women, and they'll include entrepreneurs, change makers, young professionals, and college-age women in an opportunity for them to come together in a space that will inspire, uplift, and generate community while promoting networking and support through connections in a small group atmosphere. The event coming up is actually sold out, but to learn about future and upcoming events, make sure that you are following me on social media, Sharing Passion and Purpose on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, and at Passion Sharing on Twitter. I will also be sending out emails, so if you want to go to sharingpassionandpurpose.com and sign up for Nancy's Nudge of Encouragement, that is a way that I connect with the community and send out positivity, and also it will keep you in the loop of upcoming events. So I hope that you join me there as well. Now, here's the episode. In this episode, you'll hear from Becky Fields Wilson. Becky is a banker, entrepreneur, and success coach. As the founder of Positive on Purpose, a professional and personal development company, she helps high-performing women in business create powerful strategies and systems so they can level up their career, income, and life. Her passion is to lead, coach, and inspire women to be all they are meant to be. During this conversation, you'll learn more about her 2-decade-long career in banking, as well as her thoughts on leadership, success, and health. She also shares a little about her health journey, including a breast cancer diagnosis at the age of 42, and the importance of being positive on purpose. So I hope that you enjoy this conversation with Becky. Okay, welcome, Becky.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to be visiting with you. It's really funny, all of the connections that come into play with people. So I met a lady, Carol Matthews. Carol introduced me to David Lifesti. David introduced me to you.
Yes.
So
small world.
Isn't that a small world?
And amazing people that connected us.
I was just going to say that. Yes. It's like, I feel like sometimes we're sharing a brain, but yeah, absolutely amazing people. And you're an amazing person as well. And we're going to start talking about all that you have going on. But just so people can get to know you a little better, if you would share, this is kind of a funny question, but it was something I was curious about, but your superpower, what you think your superpower is.
I think my superpower is seeing the best in people. I think sometimes I've realized over my career that it kind of irritates people in a way because they want me to be more of a realistic or not so Pollyanna. And I'm in banking. And so sometimes I'm like, but I just believe the best. I believe that people are good and they try their hardest, and they may not show up the way they want to that day, but I always believe the best in people, and I've always encouraged people. I was a cheerleader, and so I think I just came by that naturally, that I love to cheer people on and see people win. And I think that's why I got into leadership in general, is because I can believe in myself, but it even brings me more joy to watch someone else flourish and grow into their potential. So I would say that's what it is. I love to encourage people.
Okay, I can completely see that. Yeah, and I feel like I can relate to that 100%. Yes, and I do feel like I've been called a Pollyanna.
Uh-huh.
And so when you said that, I thought, yeah, but it's just, I think, the way that you are and I am. It's just seeing the positive side, the glass half full. And I feel like that's such an asset.
I think so too. And I'm in banking. Like, a lot of it is cut and dry. We're very regulated. It's the numbers work or they don't sometimes, type of thing. Yes. And so I have that whole side of me that I am very realistic. But even in my realism, I can still see what's positive or what's possible out of that situation. So I don't feel like it's ever held me back or anything to just go ahead and look at it it opens me up to like what's next and what's possible, instead of, there's a time and a place for critique, for sure. And I'm not saying I never do and never, question things, but I just like to see the good.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a similar background with your finance. Is that right? And then I'm accounting. So I worked in accounting for just a little while and did not like it at all. But, I was in auditing, but you enjoy banking and you have worked your way up over the years, and you're a managing director at MidFirst Bank. And so I would love for you to share, because our personalities are so similar, what you enjoy about your career in banking.
Yeah. So when I started off, I didn't want to be in banking at all. In fact, when how the career counselor meets with you and you see all the jobs for finance, I marked off banking. That was what I marked off. And then that's what I ended up going into, because it was just a job that was available. And I think I didn't understand what I wanted to do at the time, but I knew conceptually what it was. And I had a great boss at the time. And I was just honest with him. I said, well, I really didn't want to get into banking. It was just a job that was open. And he said, well, what did you want to do? And I said, well, I'd really like to run a company. And I don't really know why I said that or thought that, but I saw my parents, they owned companies. My dad was a pastor, my mom's a pastor. They run nonprofits. And so maybe I just saw some of the attributes that I liked in them and that I, aspired to. And so I couldn't really say that at the time, like what it was. But so when I said that to him, he said, well, a bank is a company. And I said, oh, wow, that's interesting. Yeah, it is a company. He said, you could run a bank. And I said, okay, that sounds great. So that was kind of where I got the first thought of that I wanted to step into leadership in banking. And so it was just like a long road of working with him. And he was a great mentor to me and taught me about being patient, like for the next role, but then also asking for other projects, jobs, things like that would fulfill me while I was kind of waiting for what I wanted. And it turned out to be the best training ground that I could ever have, because I didn't know what I was wishing for to be in leadership. That a lot of times you're not the most popular person. You have to deliver really the worst news. A lot of the things that no one can solve at their level do get to you at that level. And so sometimes it can be discouraging. But again, back to my positive attitude, I feel like I am able to bring people together because I look at it from a lot of different angles and perspectives that maybe they hadn't seen before. And I can help bring together through commonality. And even if it is bad news, to see, okay, this is bad news today, but what are our next steps, or what's the way through this? And so I think my key thing that I want to do is build trust with people, because again, back to I believe the best about people, and so I hope they believe the best about me. So I feel like through being a servant leader and humble and not having all the answers, I know that I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to ask the experts around me. Each person in the role that they're in knows more than I do about their job, which is great, or one of us wouldn't be needed. And so I'm not too proud to say, what is your opinion? Gather all the facts, and then I may have to be the one to make the decision that's harder to make. But at least I feel well informed, and I find that we're able to build trust with each other. And so I think the reason, back to your question on like why I love banking, is because it is a business. I'm interested. I love numbers. I love, tweaking the numbers and working towards a goal. And at first I didn't understand which pieces I loved, but the pieces that fire me up and I just love, and that is, I love helping clients look at their problem, what their problem is, and help them, like, let's roll up our sleeves. I'm very strategic, but I'm also positive. And so then I kind of put a spin on it of, well, this is not the best news. Like if someone's going through a divorce, this is not the best news, but how can we all work together to make sure you both come out as whole as possible? And like, what do we need to be doing in your financial situation to get you guys back onto a peaceful track in that? Or if a business is starting, or if a business is breaking apart, partnerships break up, even just like divorces, and you're walking through that with partners sometimes. So to me, I've been called to bring order where there's kind of chaos in some of those situations, because I do take a realistic approach and a strategic approach, but I'm able to infuse, let's see what we can do next. Just roll up our sleeves and see what we can do next. So I love sewing into my clients like that, but then I also love building teams. And so my absolute joy is just building teams and seeing what they can do, and just seeing potential that they didn't even know they had. One of my favorite loan officers that I've ever worked with, she was a teller when she first started. And I just remember, I was just a few steps ahead of her in the banking game. And I remember just saying, oh my gosh, you would make such a great loan assistant. You're so thorough. People love you. And she said, oh, I could never be a loan assistant. I said, yes, you can. And so then we get her to be a loan assistant. And then she's a loan assistant, and she's doing it so well that she's doing half of the lender's job. And I said, gosh, you really should be a lender. You're so good at this. Oh, no, I can't. And then she ended up being one of our best, lenders we ever had. And so seeing potential in people before they see it for themselves is so fun for me, because I just I can see what's possible for you, when maybe I can hold out belief for them even before they can believe it for themselves.
See, and that's so important. So you mentioned a mentor, having a mentor. And so if you'd expand on that a little bit, on how much that helped you, and then I'm curious on it sounds like you mentor people just in, I don't know if there's a formal situation at MidFirst Bank, or if you just kind of informally are able to mentor, people underneath you.
Yeah. There have been times in my life where I didn't have a visible mentor. And what I would do is I just grabbed onto people like John Maxwell.
Yes.
Or Jim Rohn, or there were so many people back in the day that you could get their cassette tapes and books and all of those things.
Yep.
And Joyce Meyer, and people that I've never met them, but they're who their beliefs lined up with mine.
Yeah.
And they're, I knew they're, no one's perfect, but I'm, at least can trust what they say. And so to me, those were my first forms of true mentorship, is from afar, and me digging into their information and what was available to me. So that's my first advice for anyone looking for a mentor, because I do find a lot of young people come to me and say, I need a mentor. And I agree. I absolutely agree. I think everyone should have a mentor. When one's not readily available, I say go find your own and, start there. But the other thing is, and the reason I've loved to mentor people, and I don't know how many people I've mentored now, because it just keeps compounding every year, because I'm okay with being honest about where I've failed more about than when I've succeeded. And so a lot of times people will sit down with me and say, how'd you get to where you are? Like that's a success point or something. I think success, I've defined it differently for myself at different seasons in my life. And I've also seen that people define success differently than I do. And so to me, success is not about getting to a destination. It's about the person that you have to become to get to where you want to be. Because when you get there, wherever there is, it's never what you think it is.
Right.
It's always different and a little bit harder and has more responsibilities typically. The road less traveled is less traveled for a reason. It's hard work, and you don't do it because it's easy. You do it because it's hard, and then it just makes you a better person along the way. I think it was Jim Rohn that said, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. And I have always just kind of clung on to that thing, not like wishing away my problems, but just asking, I believe in God. And so to me, I just always ask him, why do you have me in this situation? Like in Esther, she talks about, I was placed for such a time as this. And sometimes even in the hardest things that I go through, I think, wow, I must be just the person for this job, because here I am in yet another hard situation that most people would run from, and I want to run from. But I find that strength in the fact that I've been through hard things and I can be vulnerable with people and tell them the truth about, life is kind of 50-50. It's not always rainbows and butterflies. And I feel like sometimes what we're looking for in a mentor is someone to tell us, you're great, and prop you up, and it's going to be great. And I don't mean to be Debbie Downer, because I am a positive person, but I am also realistic. Mm-hmm. And that is, just don't be surprised by the hurdles and obstacles, because I think some of the things that I see in high achievers is that we can isolate ourselves because we think we have to be perfect. And if something's not going right, we're almost afraid to tell anyone else about it, because we're afraid that we're the only one that's experiencing it like this. Mm-hmm. Like, we're embarrassed. I've been embarrassed before that I'm jealous of someone else, like getting something that I want. And I would never want to share that with someone, because that just talks about my ego. Mm-hmm. Well, it's better for me to talk that through with someone and find out, where is that coming from? Why? Maybe I just am jealous because I want what they have. And could I turn that around into something, well, that means it's possible for someone else, so it means it's possible for me. Mm-hmm. And so kind of passing along those mentorship lessons, to me, is the most important thing, just to be real with people. And that's been the most valuable to me whenever I've seen, I think the people that I've followed or who have mentored me have just been real with me and love me through the mm-hmm. through the junk too, because mm-hmm. we're all human, and days where we're like, man, I wish I would have handled that differently. And the neat thing is most of the time we have the next day mm-hmm. to handle it differently. You can mm-hmm. always go back and say, that the best version of me didn't show up today, and I apologize for that. Trying to do better. I'm glad that I noticed it, because maybe in the past I wouldn't have even noticed it. Mm-hmm. And now I'm more self-aware. So that's a good first step, but my next step is I'm going to do better next time. And just make things right. Like, don't keep those things harbored, because I find that so many people are so afraid of confrontation or looking mm-hmm. wrong, looking dumb. I read a book recently. One of the things, they have really good questions to ask yourself, mm-hmm. like coaching questions. And it said, one of the questions is would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? And a lot of times I think we're just trying to prove our point so much and be right, instead of looking like, how can I add value to this situation, whatever the issue is? What does great look like right now for me, and adding value to this situation? What am I doing to help? Like, stop judging, start helping, and move it forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Gosh, I love all of that. Okay, so I'm glad that you mentioned about looking to even books or different, it doesn't have to be a person in person right. to have a mentor. You can look and somebody you admire, if they've written books, if they're on social media and they're giving some positive content that you can, or some content, helpful content that you can, explore. I think there are other ways to get it than in person. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So how are you defining success for yourself these days? If it's changed, over time, yeah. what are you thinking about success right now?
That's so good. Sometimes it's daily. Mm-hmm. I do a daily journal, and I set my intention for the day. And I've noticed that most times over the past, let's say 3 to 5 years, I would say, the intention that I want to feel by the end of the day is peace. And I think that I have peace whenever I'm in right relationship with people around me, myself, and God. So what did I do today to be sure that I'm taking care of the people around me? That would be my clients. That would be my team. That would be my boss. That would be other colleagues, other centers of influence that I'm working with in the community, whether it's volunteer work or a referral network. Like, how did I show up for them? Did I bring my A game to them today? Because I used to place it completely in like what title I had, what job I had, my income, my net worth. All those things matter to me. I'm in banking. I love money. Mm-hmm. I don't care to say that. I love money. I love making money. My reason for making money has changed since I was young. When I was young, I wanted the things. And now one of my mantras that I have gone by for probably the past 10 years is I have multiple streams of income flowing into me abundantly throughout my life, so I can travel with my family and make experiences and practice irrational generosity. And those things drive me more than just the money itself, because I have a why behind it, and it has to do with being present for my family, because I know, like, I not to pat myself on the back, but I'm A+ at showing up for my career. I love my career. I love banking. I will always show up for banking. And even though I used to have this thought that my priorities in life were God first, family second, career third, I used to say that all the time in my 20s. It was true, but I didn't put it into practice. My family fell below my career most days, and I had to learn how to balance that, and then also balance the regret of the times that I said I chose my career over my kids over and over and over. And I don't feel like there's ever like a perfect balance in that, because wherever I am, I feel like, oh, I should be the other place. But I always have shown up for my career because I do love it. But a career can be demanding, and clients can be demanding. And I'm a performer who wants to perform the best for them. Like, I want to be the best. And I want the referrals, and I want to grow teams, and I want all those things. And I think that's okay, because I think God has made us as we are to grow. Like, everything in creation grows, it vibrates, it moves. And so if you're not growing, to me, you're declining. You're like on the dying end of the spectrum, and I never want to be there. So I'm okay with wanting, and I do believe that God gives us the desires of our hearts. And some of those desires, like, he places in our hearts. Like, he never placed in my heart to be an NFL quarterback. That was not in my skill set nor my desire set. But like, the things he put in my heart were specifically for me, based on my skills and my personality and my unique life experiences. And then those things I naturally love and am drawn to, and grow those things. And so in all of that, I find success in whatever I do that's in front of me, that I do as unto the Lord, and do well that day. And so, can that mean making more money and having a greater career and impact? Absolutely. And it can also mean a lot of other things too.
I love, what did you say? Irrational generosity.
Irrational, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I love that.
I want to so bad. I want to give away my car sometime. I just have had that on my heart. You know, like something like that, where I don't even think about it. Like, where I have so much abundance that I just think, I know that this will come back to me again. And I don't hold on to anything so tightly that it's my end all and be all. Like, I just want to be open to, if there's a need that I hear of in the community, it's not a big fanfare. It's just like, there's just something being met, and they might not even know how it was met.
I'd rather not have people know that it was me.
Right.
Or that, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
I love that. Okay, so now I want to switch gears. Part of your journey, can we talk about this, has included a battle.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so you fought the battle and won against breast cancer.
Yes.
And that, I know, was quite a rocky road, but you even, was it last year, were the state chairwoman for the Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to kind of talk just a little bit about your perspective on, you know, when you found out about having breast cancer, and because you and I are so positive, like how that hit you, and then, you know, kind of your path that you've taken to today.
Yeah. It was such a shock to me. I was 42 years old, and I was in good shape. I didn't have any of the markers for it or anything like that. So it was a huge shock to me. But my first thing, after, you know, making sure my kids were okay and everything, my first thought was, I'm fighting this. Of course, I come at it from a, you know, glass half full, fight like a girl, all pink, all the things. And it really was helpful to me during that time to see myself as a strong, you know, we're kicking cancer to the curb, you know, like all of those things. It was very helpful to me. So I ended up, for my treatment, I had triple negative breast cancer. And so I ended up having a double mastectomy. And what surprised me about it is I knew I didn't know what I didn't know, obviously. I knew I wasn't looking forward to it at all, but I was just going to be glad to have the cancer out of my body. And I thought, just do this and move on. That'll be great. But I went through about a year of probably the most deepest depression of my life. And I think a lot of the reason for that, well, first of all, the identity shift of who am I now, as far as like my body felt deformed. Mm-hmm. I did want to look at myself in the mirror when I would meet someone new, even though they wouldn't have even known that I had anything quote unquote wrong with me. I didn't look people in the eye all of a sudden, and I'd never been someone like that didn't have confidence. So I didn't look at people in the eye, because I just kind of looked down when I walked in the room. And I had a whole basically pity party for about 6 months of, this isn't fair, why me? It was very painful. And then I think, since I had always been so active and loved to run and loved to work out, and I couldn't do that for several months, that also spiraled on top of it. And then on top of that, I had basically survivor's guilt. And so I had people that I was going through with it at the same time, where, you know, they were either passing away or having a much harder time with it than I did, as far as like further complications and this on top of that. And so I was one of the lucky ones. You know, we caught it early. It didn't spread to my lymph nodes. Mastectomy, and, you know, I'm thinking, oh, I get to move on. And so I had guilt that I was sad. And so I piled guilt and shame upon the depression that I already had. And I just became really bitter basically during that time. And I just sunk into like a big depression. And then something came back to me that my dad used to always say, and he would just say, you can be bitter or you can be better, but you can't be both. And right, I know, he's so deep. Anyway, so I just thought, yeah, I'm so bitter. And the breaking point was kind of, my son and my husband were going to dinner, and they said, do you want to come? And I was like, kind of went off on them, like, how dare you? You know I'm tired. I can't go to dinner. You know, my legs worked fine. I could go to dinner, but I was just like, really, you're mad at them for having a night out and just going to eat dinner, And so it was kind of a wake-up call of like how inward focused I had become. Mm-hmm. And I talked to a friend at the time she's a coach. I had said, I don't know what's wrong. I'm kind of doing all the things. I'm still like doing my daily devotional. I'm trying to, I'm trying to do all the right things and everything, but I'm not snapping out. I was back at work. I was working. I mean, no one knew anything was wrong with me, but I would just go home and get in bed immediately upon returning home. I was so tired. And I said, I'm not doing this because I'd been in these clubs or boards or, I always have other side businesses going on at the same time, because I am constantly just have these ideas of things that I want to work on. So I have all these ideas and couldn't do it. So it was kind of just felt suffocating. And she said, Becky, here's the deal. You used to you were spinning 7 plates at a time, and you got used to spinning those. That was fine. And you were, you had been lending for so long that you kind of do that in your sleep even. I was like, yeah, that's true, and then you've been leading teams and all this, you just were spinning those plates, and you liked adding other plates because you could balance. You're an organized person and you like the thrill of the chase of the things that you're doing. But what I see is your body can't do that right now. And just be honest with yourself. She said, I think you're just shaming yourself into, you're not at the performance level that you were 6 months ago. Well, right. Yeah, you just had a major surgery. And so just that, she said, what's one plate that you could spin right now? Just one plate. And then know that you'll start adding back plates over time. And that visual helped me so much right then, because I said, well, it's my health, I have to take care of my health and my mental health first. And so I just started trying to find ways to change my focus, because I believe that where your focus goes, your energy flows. And so my energy was flowing down, 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 and I needed my energy to be up. And so I started these gratitude walks, and I couldn't walk that far. I was used to, running 5 miles a day, and instead I was taking a walk, and so I had to do something else to occupy my mind during that time and not gripe about not being able to run. And so I started a gratitude walk, and I would just start walking, and I'd start with my toes, and I kind of wiggle my toes and go, wow, I have 10 toes that all work. Isn't that amazing that I'm blessed with? They give me balance, to my knowledge. I think that's what's giving me balance right now. And then my ankles still work. They're moving and propelling me forward. And my calves work. Isn't that interesting that they have all everything in there is just working fine, even though there's a part of my body on my chest right now that's in pain and hurting, but my calves are still working fine and still able to propel me, and so are my knees. I worked up my body the whole way, and so it turned my focus to what was right. And so kind of back to that thought of, if you only focus on what's wrong, you'll never see what's right. And so I changed my focus from everything that was wrong back to everything that was right. And I just felt so grateful by the end of my walk that I started at the end of my walk even going, and how can I give this love to the world whenever I'm not spinning all the plates? I don't have time to spin the plates and do my, charity work or whatever the ministries that I'm in. But right then I could send love into the world just right then. And so what I did was what I could do. And that was send love to the people I know. So I would just start with my dad and work my way down my family and then friends, and just say, God, shine upon them today, turn your face towards them, give them peace, give them grace, and shine your light on them today. And that fulfilled me during that time that I felt useless to the world. And that's really what kept me going through all those things, because I started focusing on what I could do. Then all of a sudden I realized, what does this make possible? What makes possible that I could help other women that didn't fly through this? Because you do hear of people, they're like, oh, I just got done and moved on, and then I was jealous of them, but I'm like, there will probably be other women that didn't get through this as easily as they wanted to, and now I can help them. And through Susan G. Komen, they'll call me all the time. I had someone last week, she's having a double mastectomy today. I'm going to call her later and check on her. People reach out because they know that I've been through it, and I didn't really want it to be public. It just kind of ended up happening that way because I had so many clients that were, they just find out, and everything. And so I thought, I'll use my voice to be sure that women take care of their body, listen to their body, get their mammograms, whatever it is, however I can serve in that capacity, to be sure to take care of themselves. And then the biggest thing that came out of me for that was back to the success thing. That was really when I was able to separate my identity from my job and from my titles and from my income, and all of those things was during that time. And I was reminded of it during the talk, for the kickoff. And I was looking through some old things, just kind of reminiscing, because it's been 7 years, and you just kind of go on and you move on. I was looking through some old journals, and I had forgotten that the night before my surgery, so I was treating in another city, and my whole family was there, and we were in a hotel. And while I was fully supported and had people around me, I still felt alone, because there are things that you just can't walk through with anyone else in there. Like, that is your journey to go through. And so, I was having those kinds of conversations, and what I would call like a mortality conversation with myself. And looking back on it, it's a little melodramatic, because I look back like, you were going to make it, honey. It's okay. But at the time, 2 a.m, when you're laying there by yourself, and I had all the thoughts of, what if they open me up and I'm full of cancer, and they just say, you're one of those ones where we'll just close you up and send you home, or, they're operating right near your heart, are they going to nick your heart, or, just all those things that kind of come into place. The thing I thought of was, if I'm not here tomorrow, what do I want my kids to know? That's all I thought about, was my kids. And so I just got out of my journal and I started writing to them, and then I typed it up, a letter to give to them. And it was really apparent what mattered during that time, even if it wasn't my last day on earth, if I felt that close to it. And the things I said were, I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. I was so proud when God picked me to be your mama and watch you grow and love God. And I talked about the impact that they've already had in the world, because they have always volunteered for my parents' ministries. And here they are as young kids out there already impacting thousands of lives just for volunteering and serving in those ministries. So I talked about all those things. I remember putting in there, I don't even care what you do in life, as long as you love God and serve Him and serve people and make your impact in the world according to your calling and your purpose. And when I was looking through all those things, I realized I had an aha moment just last year when I read those. And I was like, wow, you didn't talk about your job. You didn't talk about your career, your title, nothing. You didn't talk about how much money you've made or net worth or all those things that I've held so important. I talked about relationships and, how we impact, the world through who we are. And so to me, that was the best shift that, I didn't want, but it was so instrumental in how I show up for pretty much everything I do now, because while things still come, I dealt with a catastrophe this morning at work, and those things still happen. It's real life. Life is 50-50. You can't have the mountaintops without the valleys and everything. But a lot of times I'm able to more quickly get back to a place of peace and calm down and say, okay, what do we need to have happen here? What, is this even going to matter in 5 years? Am I going to get myself all riled up about this for no reason? Or do I just move through it and, solve the problem, move on? So.
Okay. Wow. I've teared up so many times listening to all of this. So one of the things that I want you to mention, because I could just listen to you all day, and the things that you have gone through, and you are so open to sharing your stories about, you and I have talked about even, professionally, things when you were going up through the ranks in banking. And so we didn't talk about it on this, but just a lot of different, you have so much experience, so much depth. And so you are also a speaker. And so I wanted people to know about that you do that. And if you can share a little bit about the topics, and people probably have an idea just from listening to this conversation, but share some of the topics that you engage with people in keynotes or other things that you do.
Yeah, I started speaking because I found it kind of back to the mentorship thing. I had a lot of people coming to me for different, like how do I get there in banking type of questions. And I couldn't answer them. I couldn't get with all of them. And it started making me feel bad if I would say, well, I can get to you next month or Saturday morning or, whatever, trying to fit people in. And I just heard somebody say, you can coach 1-to-1 or 1-to-many. And I thought, 1-to-many is a much better model for me right now, because I feel like I have life experiences that I can share, and I will be more vulnerable than, some people. I don't know why I'm okay with showing the bad parts too, but I just feel like it's the real thing. And I think being positive just for positive sake doesn't really help anyone. Like, cause sometimes it can just make someone feel worse about themselves. Like, well, I'm not a positive person, so now what do? I just have to stay stuck. And I don't ever want anyone to feel like that. And so that's how I got into speaking. So I've been doing it for a while, and I love it, because then it allows me to speak to more people. One of my talks was on take a seat at the table. And I did that because my passion is to lead, coach, and inspire women to be all that God created them to be. And so that goes back to what I love to do is encourage other people, mainly women, just because I know the path more. So the take the seat at the table one really just came about because I wanted women to just step into their potential and take their rightful place. I don't feel like a lot of people, like I wasn't held back by men in general or anything like that. Just sometimes I just didn't ask for the position or ask for the role because I was afraid. And so I just want to help people do that. And then my most recent keynote that I love to give is kind of a lot of the topics that we're talking about today. It's Positive on Purpose, which is the name of my coaching business. And Positive on Purpose, breaking through your limiting beliefs and the stories that hold us back. And the thing that I've realized the older that I get is we all have things that have happened to us in life. We all have circumstances that we kind of wish we wouldn't have had to go through. But the way we tell our story to ourselves, and whether we show up as a victim or a victor, is really what helps us get to the next thing, whatever success means to us. And so my key thing is like take your thoughts captive, which comes from scripture. But sometimes I didn't know how to take them captive. I'm like, I took it captive, but I don't understand, like, now what? And so to me, some of the processes that I've learned, and why do I keep getting myself into these same situations? It's because belief patterns that we have about ourselves or about circumstances or about others that we're not aware of, and that sometimes it just takes someone to put a mirror up in front of your face and go, okay, what about this? What are you believing about yourself? What lies are you believing about yourself that maybe you've told yourself? I mean, common ones I hear are, just simple. I'm not good at math. I'm not good at English. I'm not good at writing. I'm not good at speaking up for myself. I'm not good at confrontation. I'm not good at speaking in public. I'm not. It's all these I'm not statements instead of I am. And I just want to help women turn that around to, who are you? Step into your true identity, your true calling, and who do you say that you are?
Okay, great. Okay, there's a lot more that I could talk to you about, but I'm going to stop there because that everything that you have said has been, I think, so purposeful, and I appreciate being open and your honesty and everything that you've shared today.
Thank you for having me.
It's going to help a lot of people, I think, this conversation. So
Good.
Yes, thank you for being here. Okay, everybody, that's a wrap on this week's episode. I want to thank you for listening to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast. It means the world to me, and I'd love to connect with you. Please follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Sharing Passion and Purpose, and Twitter at Passion Sharing. Also, if you like this podcast, it would mean a lot to me for you to subscribe, rate, and review it. And as always, all my show notes will be available on my website, sharingpassionandpurpose.com.